Hello, welcome to another episode of Field of Screams podcast. Today we'll be ranking every single VHS segment that there is. Whether it's a regular segment or if it's a connecting segment that connects all the other segments. Originally I was going to rank the connecting segments differently, but as I was going through the movies I kind of found out some of the segments are pretty bad and some of the connecting segments are pretty alright. And I found some of the connecting ones higher than the other regular segments. So yeah. So we have 38 segments to rank, and then we will rank all the VHS movies at the very end. So stick around. So starting at number 38, the very last place is Gorgeous Vortex, which is the only segment not to make a VHS movie. The director made this segment. It is not found footage. It is not very good. They decided to not even put it into VHS 3 Viral, which if you've seen VHS Viral, it's not very good, but this segment's so bad that it couldn't even make that movie. Basically what this segment is, it's basically like a music video, and it looks like they're filming a makeup commercial, or maybe a lipstick commercial. I kept waiting to hear, maybe it's Maybelline, but yeah, it never happened, and it's boring, and I could barely sit through it. So that's why it's last place, number 38. Number 37 is the connecting segment to VHS 99. I couldn't even find a name for this, but all it is stop motion toys. They try to do little jokes with it. I didn't think the jokes were very funny. It connects to one of the segments called Gawkers, which Gawkers is pretty okay, like the characters are likable. But the connecting segment itself, with all the toys being placed around with stop motion, I did not care for it. All the other connecting segments, at least they try to be like a little scary. This one didn't try. I wasn't a big fan of the stop motion. And I'm counting it as a segment, so that's why it's 37. Number 36 is Ozzy's Dungeon. Now I know this one will upset some people, because I know some people place this one very high. This one, at first, it starts off kind of parodying Legends of the Hidden Temple, which I was a very big fan of as a kid. So when this started, I was pumped. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see where they go with this. I was hoping they would go into some type of lore, some type of evil behind the show, which they kind of do. But it quickly spirals into like an Adult Swim, gross type segment. A girl like dislocates her knee while competing. Her mom gets all mad and then takes the host of the show hostage, and it kind of turns into like a low budget Saw movie. And it's gross. She's feeding him gross stuff. He's throwing up. I just didn't like this segment very much at all. I didn't like the direction they took it. And I just did not think very highly of it. I was like, this was kind of disappointing. And at the very end, they do kind of get into like a lore behind the show. But still, it just ended up being kind of silly. So I just didn't really care for it. And that's why it's number 36. Number 35 is Bone Storm from VHS 3. In this segment, it's about some skaters who are just very not likable at all. They're constantly skating around. They're running into people's cars. And every time they're like, hey, you damaged my car, they're like, screw off, dude. And I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but eventually these skaters, like, they go off and eventually they run into like this cult or like a group of skeletons, and they get into fights with them. And even the fight scenes are bad. Like, there's like GoPro and it's showing extremely close-ups of their faces. I didn't like the characters, didn't like the fight scenes. I thought it was extremely cheesy. The CGI wasn't that great. I just did not like Bone Storm at all, so that's why it falls down to number 35. Those punk skater kids get to live, too. That's another thing that kind of grinds my gears. Think of all the good characters in the VHS movies who end up dying at the end, but yet they let these guys go. Unbelievable. Number 35. Number 34 is Vicious Circles, the connecting segment to VHS Viral. Now I know this connecting segment doesn't make much sense at all, but it does kind of have a theme of them saying like, phones and all this stuff and YouTubers trying to go viral. It could lead to them doing crazy, stupid things. And this segment itself is pretty chaotic. It really is. It goes all over the place. But I will say it has some kind of cool things in it. Whether it be, I mean, police cars are chasing ice cream trucks. There's kids being dragged by the ice cream truck. I don't know, there's just little bits that I feel like it kind of puts it above the rest of the garbage. I also laughed pretty hard at the part where the girl's possessed and she's on the computer screen and she's like hitting her head on the wall and the boyfriend's like, stop. And as the girlfriend's hitting her head, she's like, that'll go viral. That'll go viral. I don't know. It got me a little chuckle. So, I mean, there were some like kind of parts here where I kind of laughed or, I kind of liked. So it does put it above the other segments. And when I called it garbage earlier, I'm doing it kind of tongue-in-cheek here. I don't like the segments, but if you do, that's fine. Just keep in mind these are my opinions whenever I'm saying this stuff. Number 33 is the connecting segment to VHS Beyond. This one was a little different. It kind of almost set up itself like a documentary. It had like YouTubers and other people speaking. It almost felt like something off the History Channel where they're talking about like ancient aliens. But there was a little segment at the very end that I feel like it places it a little higher than the rest. The very ending segment where it shows like this alien person like inserting like an alien egg into another person's like throat. It was kind of spooky. I was like, oh, that's kind of a good ending shot there. So, regardless of the rest, was it a little boring? Yeah. But I mean, the ending segment, it was enough to place it above the other segments for me. So that's why it falls at 33. Number 32 is TKNOGB. That's what it's labeled as. So that's from VHS 85. This segment is about a lady who gets in front of a crowd and she starts talking about how your God is dead. Technology is taking over. But there is a new God that is in technology. And she starts going into this virtual world and she's talking about how basically technology is taking over. Basically there really is a technology monster that does attack her and it kills her. The best part about this segment is the very end when she's finally dead. The crowd stands up and starts clapping because they think it's all art, but in reality she really is dead. So yeah, that's all this segment really is. It's kind of forgettable. The ending of it's kind of funny. But yeah, it wasn't anything too special. Number 31 is Holy Hell, the connecting segment to VHS 94. I really enjoyed this connecting segment. I felt like it brought the vibes back after VHS Viral kind of lost its way. This one found its way back on track. You felt the vibes from VHS 1 and VHS 2 again. It's a SWAT team storming a facility. Inside there's people that gouged out their eyes. It's really great. It's a dark atmosphere. It's kind of spooky. It sets the vibes for the whole movie. I really appreciated this segment. But since it's a connecting segment, there really isn't much meat to it. At the very end, there's these two girls that torture one of the guys. Is it Schneider or Schrader? That part was kind of corny, but I did like the banter between the soldiers whenever they were searching the building, and I like the idea in general. I like the idea for the connecting segment. So yeah, that's why it's where it's at. Number 30 is Dante the Great. This segment was about a magician. He finds a magic cape that enables him to do actual magic, but the cape wants to feed on his assistants, so he's a bad magician. Really, this is a good idea. I think if you dedicated a whole movie to this, it would be great. It would be interesting. But as a segment, you don't really get the backstory you need to be invested. The little fights they do with magic and stuff, it feels kind of silly. It doesn't feel like it needs to be in a VHS movie. So I appreciate the idea, but I just didn't really care for it as a VHS segment. So that's why it's number 30. Number 29 is Shredding from VHS 99. Again, this one was set up kind of cool. The whole idea of this punk rock band going to this abandoned facility to where an older punk rock band died because the building caught on fire while they were performing. And them coming back from the dead and like haunting them. Like, it sounds very cool. It seemed like it was going to be like Night of the Demons. I was kind of excited for it. But man, really every character in the segment is kind of an a-hole. Except there's one, I think his name's Andor or something like that. The bandmates just constantly pick on him over and over again, whether they're faking their death. They're just constantly piling on the kid, and you're like, man, why doesn't he just leave? And eventually he does, but by then it's too late. But when the punk rock band comes back from the dead, even the kills aren't even that great, and by the time it's over, you're just kind of like, oh, that's it? So yeah, that's why it's number 29. Number 28 is Tape 56, The Connecting Story to VHS 1. Now, one thing I do appreciate about this connecting segment, it does have very dark vibes. I like the atmosphere that it provides. It gets you prepared for all the segments. It's dark, it's spooky. There's an old fat guy that's just kind of running around the house. The guys who are part of the whole thing, it's a bunch of robbers looking for VHS tapes. They get killed off one by one. The parts I don't like about it, the sexual assault, that's kind of hard to watch. I had someone knock on my door while I was watching it, and there was like a lady screaming as another guy was trying to grab her boobs. Very awkward situation when that happened. So that was kind of rough, and I feel like this segment, it goes a little too long. You want the segments to happen, and sometimes this connecting segment, it just kind of lingers a little bit too long. So those are my complaints about it, and that's why it falls where it's at. Number 27 is Second Honeymoon from VHS 1. This segment goes on a little bit too long. You're following around a couple. You're seeing the different places they're going to. It's almost like the director of this, like, he was going on vacation anyways, and he just asked two actors, like, hey, you want to just act like you're a couple, and we'll just film a couple of segments, and then we'll do something scary at the end. The first time watching it, I found it pretty effective, but, once you kind of know the twist, the girl has a girlfriend, and, she ends up killing the dude. It's really nothing special. It reminds me of Friday the 13th, the very first movie. First time you're watching it, you're like, oh, shoot, Jason's not the killer. But then when you go to watch it again, you're like, yeah, I'd rather just watch, number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or number 5 or number 6. So yeah, once you know the twist, for me, it's nothing special. So that's why it falls where it's at. Number 26 is Gawkers from VHS 99. For this segment, I really liked the characters. I really did. It's a bunch of young boys. They're kind of juvenile. But their antics are funny, actually, compared to, like, shredding. The boys, you can laugh at them. There's a funny bit to where, they're trying to talk to the girl next door. They find her very attractive. They're creeping on her constantly. It's almost like American Pie vibes. The UPS driver, he gets out of the car, he talks to the girl, and then he starts doing this backward dance. That was pretty funny. The only downside to this segment is the girl next door ends up being Medusa. Which sounds kind of wild and creative, but the CGI effects just wasn't very good for, the snakes coming out of her head, and that kind of ruined it for me. And at this point in the ranking, we're facing tough competition, so that's why it falls where it's at. Number 25 is Tape 49, The Connecting Segment to VHS 2. This connecting segment took everything good about the connecting segment in VHS 1, like, the dark atmosphere, the creepiness of it, and amped it up a bit. There's a part to where one of the detectives dies but comes back to life, and she's crawling on all fours backwards, which was just wild. Everything's creepy. The fat man's lurking around in the dark house again. They're putting in VHS tapes. But then they also do better things, like, it doesn't linger too long. It's very short, it gets to the point. It does its job very well as a connecting segment. And for that, I appreciate it, and that's why it's above all the other connecting segments that I've listed so far. Number 24 is Tuesday the 17th from VHS 1. I love that they're paying their respects to Friday the 13th here. I really do, especially for the first VHS movie. That was fantastic. I like the whole arc about a girl coming back to try to kill the killer who murdered all her friends from the past. That was pretty cool. Everything here is pretty good. The one thing I didn't like about this segment was the killer. He's like a glitchy monster, and I didn't like the way it looked, and that kind of took me out a bit. That's the one down thing I could say about this segment. Everything else I liked. Even the goofiness of some parts where, like, the one supposed to be hot girl of the group, she takes like the nerdy guy to the side and she's like, "Oh, you ready for this? Check this out." And it looks like she's about to do a cheerleading routine until she gets stabbed. I even found that funny. It's just the glitchiness of the whole thing I didn't care for. That's what dragged it down in the rankings. Number 23 is A Ride in the Park from VHS 2. This segment had the cool idea to take a guy riding his bike with a GoPro and him getting bit by a zombie and then turning into a zombie so that you can see from a first person point of view of someone being a zombie. It's very gory, it's very gross. There's some parts that are funny, like a zombie trying to like eat a wallet. And then later the zombies attack a little kid's birthday party. I don't know, like this one's all right. I could see why people like it. But for me, it kind of sucks where it lays, because following this one was Safe Haven, and Safe Haven did a lot of cool stuff and then brought zombies in too. So it's like, you see this whole zombie segment here and you're kind of like, oh, that was all right. And then you go to Safe Haven, you're like, oh, that blew that out of the water. So I feel like this one kind of suffers a little bit from that. Overall, it's okay. But yeah, that's why it lies where it's at. Number 22 is God of Death from VHS 85. This one's about survivors of an earthquake trying to survive the aftermath of a big devastating earthquake. This one, again, it lingered too long for me. I felt like it went on way too long. It's okay. It's got scary parts. The whole possession demon thing that happens later, I thought it was just okay. A lot of the characters look like Joker in this segment. I don't know if that was intentional. But yeah, like, I don't know, this one's just the definition of all right for me. That's all it was. So yeah. Number 21 is Total Copy, the connecting story to VHS 85. This was my favorite connecting segment out of all the connecting segments. I love the whole weird story about the shape-shifting thing and the scientist trying to experiment with it. And then things start getting creepy later on. It starts imitating shapes of people that supposedly have never been in the room, that have been in the back labs, and it's freaking people out and they're leaving. And then there's the lead scientist that are like, guys, it'll be fine, trust me, I know this thing. But of course it goes bad. And then by the end it grows tentacles and starts murdering people left and right. And by the end, this shape-shifting figure, it loves television. It sits in front of it all day. And its favorite channel is like this aerobics channel where it shows these fitness girls like pelvic thrusting. And by the end, when it kills everyone, the very last shot of it is it making the dead bodies do pelvic thrust. Very dark humor. I thought it was hilarious, and I loved every bit of it. And that last bit is just the cherry on top of what makes VHS 85 so great. So I really liked this one. Number 20 is To Helen Back from VHS 99. This one's about these guys that are filming a seance or some type of ritual, and they literally get sent to hell. They did a good job showing hell itself. Like, it shows a lot of demons and goblins running around. I like the atmosphere of it. The one thing I didn't like is kind of the comedic aspect of it. I kind of wish they would have treated it a little more straightforward, serious. But I did like the last laugh where, they do come back to the real world, but one of the guys comes back as the girl who's on the ritual table, and he's like, hey, we made it, and then they both get stabbed. That was pretty funny. The demon lady Mabel, that was her name. Mabel was kind of funny too. You didn't know if you should trust her or not. She reminded me of Smeagol from Lord of the Rings, traveling around with these two guys. And you don't know if she's going to kill them or help them. You're not sure until the very end. She's the only one that gets a happy ending in this segment. This segment was pretty alright. There were parts that I liked. Again, I just didn't really care for the comedic part of the two guys going back and forth. But yeah, that's To Helen Back. Number 19 is Parallel Monsters from VHS Viral. I wanted to like this one more. I really did. I love the beginning of it. The guy meeting the alternate universe of himself. They switch universes for a little bit. As he goes to explore, he finds out that the alternate universe of himself is like a satanic version. I really liked where it was going. I was like, oh man, like this is crazy. Where they lost me was the satanic genitals. I don't even know if I can show that on YouTube. But yeah, that's literally where they lost me. I was kind of like, really? Like, that's where we're going with this? So yeah, great beginning. I love the concept. Just didn't care for that little twist. So that's why Parallel Monsters falls where it's at. And I know lots of people love this segment. But, that little twist just wasn't for me. Number 18 is Suicide Bid from VHS 1999. I really like the concept of Suicide Bid. The one girl who really wants to get into is it a maternity, fraternity? I don't know what they're called anymore. But basically, these popular girls, they're like, oh, if you're going to get into our group, you need to lay in a coffin that's like buried underground. And, this girl does, and they do this like little tale of this one girl coming back to haunt the person laying in the coffin. And, it does. This segment is very claustrophobic. As it's just like filming there, I'm like, my gosh, that would suck. She's in this cabin, it's dark. They trick her and they put spiders in the coffin. And then it starts to rain and water floods into the coffin. And then the demon girl comes back. But the one bad thing about this segment is the demon girl. It looks very cheesy and looks like a puppet. That's the one thing that kind of took me out of it. But overall, I love this segment. Then they get revenge on the girls who left her there. Great stuff. Reminds me of Tales from the Crypt. I was a pretty big fan of this one. I feel like it's a pretty redeeming part of VHS 99, which I really wasn't that big of a fan of, but this was a bright spot in that movie. So I really did like Suicide Bid. Number 17 is Dream Girl from VHS Beyond. This is a segment where you get to see a cool little music video. How about that? But other than that, the girl being kind of an android, one of the guys tries to comfort her and you can tell something's off and she's like, I'd like to wear your face. Great stuff. I don't know. I really liked VHS Beyond, and this is probably the weakest one in VHS Beyond, but still I liked it. When she finally comes back and kills everyone, it reminds me of Carrie. And then the paparazzi at the very end, she gets her revenge there. Pretty entertaining segment to me. So that's why it falls where it does. Number 16 is Fur Babies from VHS Beyond. This segment about a lady who likes to turn people into dogs. Justin Long played a part in this segment, and he was from the movie Tusk, which is about someone turning people into walruses. Was that what it was? I don't know. But what's with Justin Long and this weird stuff? But anyways, this one was pretty good. You take Misery and mix it with Tusk, or I don't know. I was gonna say Human Centipede, but I didn't quite want to go there. But yeah, overall it's pretty entertaining. These young college kids, they're trying to infiltrate this lady's little pet business, and she, takes them captive, starts turning them into dogs, puts paws on them, and then when the others go to stop it from happening, you see the full-fledged dog people. That was pretty wild. Again, great segment. I enjoyed it a lot. Number 15 is Terror from VHS 94. This segment about a terror group capturing a vampire and using the vampire's blood continuously as an explosive device is quite the wild concept, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's very creative. This segment, the leader of the little terror group, it's almost like if you take Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush and combine them together and make that clone a Chubby. That's probably what you get. It's just this big, awkward, old guy. The group's very dysfunctional. They end up killing themselves more than helping themselves. The little shots of them giving pep talks and stuff, it's very awkward. But I kind of liked how they did it, where they have this group of awful people, and they're just not very good at doing awful things, and they end up leading to their own demise. And by the end, you kind of root for the vampire, which the vampire wins, but then kind of commits suicide and blows everything up. It's pretty wild. But I really liked this segment. I really did. It was pretty cool. It was different, and I definitely feel like it belongs in a VHS movie. Number 14 is The Subject from VHS 94. The subject climbed a lot for me over the days of where I was doing reviews and trying to keep track of a list. Initially, when I reviewed it, I kind of knocked it for its bad CGI. But overall, I think it's a very good segment with a lot of cool gunfights and, just battles going on in general. It's about a girl who wakes up in a lab and she's part robot, and then it gets infiltrated by like a SWAT team. But things go wild, and then she has to like fight the SWAT team, and then she has to fight, other droids from the mad scientist's lair. It's very cool, action packed. There's some emotional parts in it. She even kind of makes an emotional connection with another soldier, which part of me was like maybe he was scared and that's why he did it, but he does end up trying to save her later in the segment. And there's just a little bits of where she's looking at other people that are also dismembered, and she's like, man, like look at this monstrosities around me. Like, what do I look like? And she looks in the mirror, and it's not a good sight. You honestly really feel for her. It's a very good segment with emotion, action, and in general, it's pretty cool, and it definitely belongs in a VHS movie. Number 13 is Empty Wake from VHS 94. That's 394 segments in a row, but this one, I feel like I'll have this higher in my list than a lot of other people will. This segment, it reminds me of Paranormal Activity. It takes place, this girl has to watch over this casket till like her family gets there, or, the dead person's family gets there. But while she's waiting, like a storm's going on outside, the power keeps going out. It's very creepy. There's a lot of time where not a lot happens. It's her kind of going through the darkness with the flashlight, inside this little funeral home. But I think it's great atmosphere, and I think there's a lot of suspense to it. And I think it's just a fantastic segment. Eventually the body comes alive and she's running from it until a freaking tornado blows the whole place apart. I thought it was awesome. I really did. I know this will be higher in my list than a lot of other people's, but it's just my opinion, and that's why it's at where it's at. Number 12 is Live and Let Dive from VHS Beyond. This segment is a visual spectacular. I can't even talk. It's visually great. It really is. It's, these people are going skydiving. A UFO comes up, and, their plane explodes, and they're all like skydiving while aliens are falling down, and, chaos ensures. This one was really good, from them falling from the sky. They literally got like paratroopers like filming this stuff. It was really great when it was shot. And then when they land in this orchard, and they're running around, and these aliens are everywhere, and people are dead, and the main guy that we're following around, the person who like pulled the chute, his head got caught in the chute, so like he was beheaded as their parachute went up. It's really crazy stuff. It was great. The orchard stuff was good. And even at the end, when he gets into a truck and the truck gets like sucked up into a hyper beam, visually fantastic. With all the visual cool stuff going on, the one thing that I have to knock it for is the aliens were very bad looking. The aliens were clearly CGI, and they were not great looking. Every time I wanted to place this in the top 10, I tried so hard, but every time I'm like, oh, those aliens though. But yeah, like this one was very, very cool. It's very fun. Great addition to the VHS franchise. Yeah, wow. Again, I just wish the aliens were a little better looking. Number 11 is Phase 1 Clinical Trials from VHS 2. This segment involves a guy who has a camera inside of his eyeball. This takes away the whole notion of people saying about found footage movies, why are they holding a camera? That gets rid of it. Like, oh, they always use a GoPro. Nope, not this one. This one, it's his eye. So everything he sees, you see. And it does a great job setting up this like spooky atmosphere of where he sees dead people just lurking around his house. There's one girl, she can hear dead people. She ends up trying to help them. When she first meets him, she's like, hey, give me a beer. He's like, who are you? Just get me a beer. All right. Gets her a beer, and then they start talking about it. There's even the funny bit to where she's like, listen, you have to ignore the dead people, then they might go away. So when they start popping up, she's like, quick, let's have sex. And so like you see like a first person shot of that. And by the end of it, he goes into the bathroom. He's like, hey, you better not watch that. And I want a recording. I thought it was pretty funny. But, by the end, the dead people end up getting him. And, the very end of it where he's like, I have to take out my own eyeball. And he grabs a utensil and starts to do that. But then the dead people get him anyways and shove it down his throat. Pretty dark, pretty scary. It creeped me out. So, yeah, that's why it's at number 11. Number 10 is The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily from VHS 1. To me, this is a very underrated clip in VHS. This scared the crap out of me in high school. It really did. The one where the girl is Zoom calling her boyfriend, saying she's hearing things, and soon she starts seeing kids just roam out of anywhere, like kicking the door open, running around rooms. It terrified me. And even when I rewatched it now, I was kind of like, man, like this is pretty spooky stuff. And there was one part, like I literally did jump in the couch. I was like, my God, like this is even the first time I watched it. I'm jumping. I think this is a very good one. I think it's very, very creepy. There's a part where she's like, I think something's in my arm. And she starts digging in her arm with a knife. Ugh. But yeah, by the end, you find out the boyfriend's in on it and he's like gaslighting her. He even talks to like the little kids, which I think someone told me the kids are supposed to be like aliens and they're like implanting like eggs into her skin. But the boyfriend's like, oh, great. Like he like cuts her back open and like pulls out the eggs. And he's like, great, now I gotta make this look like it's an accident. And it's like, how are you gonna do that? But by the end, he's talking to another girl. So he's gaslighting all kinds of girls, putting alien kid ghost eggs in them. Yeah, I think it's very underrated. That's why it's number 10. Number 9 is Slumber Party Alien Abduction from VHS 2. Parents are out of town. Girl has her boyfriend come over. Kid has his friends come over. Why not invite aliens? This is a pretty good segment. That was a cheesy opening. I know. I'm sorry. It's late. Okay. Give me a break. This one's very good. The lighting, everything, the aliens coming after the kids. There's a part where they're in the living room and like you see something in the back and the kid's looking and then an alien just runs across the room and scoops them up. Great jump scare. There's a part where the aliens grab the kids in the sleeping bags and you see water start to go into the sleeping bag. Very cool shot that probably didn't cost a lot of money, but it was very effective. Them putting the camera on the dog and you get the dog's point of view. The one weird thing about this little segment is like the kids are just way too familiar with each other. Like, the older sister's trying to do the deed with the boyfriend. The kids are like, let's go in there and make a bunch of noise. It's like, oh, okay, that's odd, but whatever. But then the big sister's like, we got to get revenge. So for whatever reason, the little brother is like watching porn, I think, and like masturbating in the same room with his friends, but they're all asleep. And she sends in the dog with the camera, and like all the friends wake up, and the girl's like, well, someone's having a good time. And it's like, whoa, like you're way too far. One, why is that kid doing that? But two, come on, big sis, like you're going to make this kid have no friends, which probably deservedly so after doing that. But I mean, still, what in the world's going on here? But overall, it's a good segment and just a weird bit there. So yeah. Number 8 is 10/31/98 or October 31st, 98 or Halloween 1998. Whatever way you want to say it. But that is number 8. This is I keep always saying these are very good segments. I mean, they all are. But this one has very good characters. They think they're going to a costume party. They stumble upon a ritual. And whenever they come up and they see these guys about to sacrifice a girl and they start chanting like, oh, bring her down. And like the guys are freaking out and all of a sudden paranormal stuff starts happening. The effects look pretty good in this segment, especially for it being the first movie in the VHS franchise. Some of the effects in the later movies, sometimes they look a bit wonky. This one does not. Arms coming out of the wall. Cool stuff happening in general. The characters, They could have just ran out of there after seeing a ritual and seeing a guy getting hosted up to the ceiling. I would have been out of there in about 3 seconds. But those guys go back and they try to save the girl, but the girl ends up being a ghost and, ends up being their demise once they come across the train tracks. But I like this one a lot. I like the characters a lot. I wanted to put this in the top 5, but I just feel like I couldn't. So yeah, that's why it's at where it's at. Number 7 is Dream Kill from VHS 85. This segment was just straight up creepy, in my opinion. I was very impressed by it. Basically, this kid, he has the powers to... He has this camcorder that records his dreams, and his dreams show these murders happening. And whenever it shows you these different murders happening at different houses, like it plays this creepy music. It reminded me of Sinister. While I was watching, I'm like, man, like you just kind of get the chills a little bit. And you're like, oh, I wonder how it's like all going to go down. And, at first they just show you like these kills and, this detective's getting these videotapes. They end up finding this kid who's like kind of goth looking. And, he ends up explaining it. And it ends up, it's his dad who's like part of the department. He's like the one doing the murders and they have this big showdown. I enjoyed this one a lot. I thought it was pretty scary. I really did. So that's why it falls where it does. It's very, very scary. In VHS 85, there was a lot of cool segments, but this one was definitely the scariest one in my opinion. And it's definitely needed in that movie to give it the very dark overtones. Number 6 is Stork from VHS Beyond. This is literally what the Resident Evil movies should be. This group of people, they're going in, they're trying to find out where all these missing kids are going. One of the guys in the group, his son's missing. They go in, it's like aliens, but when they go in, like these aliens, they literally look like zombies. Gunfire happens, like there's a lot of battling. One of the zombie / aliens has a chainsaw. Very, very cool stuff. It's dark, but it's like cool action scenes. The zombies come back to life at certain points, and then like they get to the very end of this house, and like this alien stork is just like feeding upon these kids. Very crazy, very cool. I liked it a lot. Like, and by the end of it, like you think you're watching like the alien / zombie version of the Avengers. Like, oh, we solved another mystery, gang. Yeah, this one was pretty cool. It definitely deserves to be in the top 10. Number 5 is Storm Drain from VHS 94. This is a very simple segment, but a very good segment and a very iconic segment for the VHS franchise. A reporter going into the sewers to investigate missing people. These missing people, they're dirty, they're covered in black stuff, they're gross, they can't really talk right. But then you get introduced to the creature of Ratma, who is very cool itself. It's got acidic, like, spit. It, like, melts a guy's face off. It gets all over the lead reporter. Eventually they go back to the studio. She returns to work. She like vomits the Ratma blood or spit into the other anchor's face, and when it melts his face, he's like, and then she looks at the camera and she's like, all hail Ratma. What can you say? I'm just not even gonna say anything else. We'll just leave it at that. All hail Ratma. Number 4 is Stowaway from VHS Beyond. This segment was about a researcher who was very curious about, UFOs, stuff being seen. She's trying to catch it all on camera, and she finds a UFO that goes down one night. Again, this segment is a visual spectacle, like I said about Let Live, Let Die. But this one sticks with me a little more just because of the end. She finds the ship has technology to where when you hurt yourself, these little tiny things come and like fix up your cuts. They heal you, which is very cool. But she lingers around the ship too much. And again, visually, just very cool. Everything going on in this segment. While I was watching it, I'm like, man, oh man. Like this VHS movie, it really outdid itself as far as visual stuff goes. But eventually, like the ship goes to take off, and when it does, like she like kind of like hurts herself. She's like, oh my gosh, like if we go in a light speed, I can't even imagine. Like you'd have to be stable, you'd have to have this healing factor. But the ship blasts off into light speed, and she's not in a stable environment, so you just see her body go flying. When her body goes flying, you then see like particles of this girl like floating around the ship, like she burst into pieces. She exploded. The healing molecules come in and they fix her up, but they fix her up wrong. They basically put her back together wrong again. So when that happens, the molecules come again and they fix her again wrong. And then they try to fix her again. And like you just see glimpses and glimpses and glimpses of this girl being put back together wrongly. And there comes a point where she's like, just end it. No more. But it just keeps trying to fix her. And she's like stuck for an eternity of just being put back together wrongly. That just stuck with me because it was something I just never even thought of. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's something worse than death. And that this is literally it. The curiosity got the cat, however that saying goes. The ending of that one, like it again, just really stuck with me, and I felt like it made it the standout in VHS Beyond. Number 3 is Amateur Night. This segment's about a bunch of guys, they're kind of bar hopping, they want to pick up girls. One of the girls they pick up is a siren. And by siren, like she kind of looks like a vampire / demon. But even when she's in her normal form, the actress that plays her in this segment, you feel all kinds of emotion for her. There's parts where you feel scared of her. There's parts that you feel very bad for her. It's just crazy. She does a very good job playing this character, and the segment does a good job playing out. These guys aren't very good guys. They got these girls very drunk. They're kind of taking advantage of them. They try to take advantage of the siren. Things don't go well. There comes a point to where the main character goes out into the room and the siren's like all curled up into like this freaky looking figure. And, like there's blood everywhere. There's body parts everywhere. She spikes a dude's junk like she's Gronkowski spiking a football. There's just points to where you're watching it and you're like, oh my God, what am I watching? I feel like this segment is like the iconic segment that made VHS 1 stand out and to later become a franchise. We got Ratma, we got other stuff too. But this one, I feel like it made people go, hey, we need another one. And then VHS 2 came. This just seems like the iconic one. When you think of VHS 1, you probably think of the siren. So that's why it's not at number 3. Now I know what you're thinking. If it's so iconic, why isn't it at number 2 or at number 1? Well, my number 1 I feel like is a general consensus. But I feel as if my number 2, I'm probably the only one who has my number 2 this high up. This number 2, I absolutely loved. And as soon as I kind of saw this connection, I was like, man, oh man, that's hard to beat. That's hard to beat. It's going to be up there. And that number 2 is Ambrosia / No Wake from VHS 85. Now I know what you're thinking. Those are 2 different segments. I know, but they connect. I had the list and I had them ranked separate. And I was very torn. I was like, I can either rank them, separately apart. I think I had No Wake at 12, and I think I had Ambrosia at number 8 or something like that. But I just kept thinking back, and I'm like, literally my favorite part of VHS 85, the thing that made me love VHS 85 was these 2 different segments. And No Wake, it starts off with these college kids, they go out to party. It's like Friday the 13th all over again. You might as well say they're at Camp Crystal Lake. They go onto this boat. They're driving around. This girl's trying to ski. You wonder where it's going to go. Where's the killer? And, soon they start to get shot at. They're getting shot one by one. You think some of them are going to live. You're waiting for the killer to show up. But, they just keep getting sniped. And eventually, all of them die. And it's kind of like, oh, like they're just going to get shot up. That's it. No, they all come back to life. Every single person that was on the lake. It was a pretty awesome twist. It reminded me of American Horror Story, but I loved it. Literally, one girl gets her jaw blown off, and like she comes back to life, and her jaw's just like hanging there by a thread. Like other people like were shot in the head. They're walking around like, oh, what in the world? Like, they're trying to figure it out. And like as I'm watching, I'm like, oh my god, please don't let this segment end. And, they're going back and forth, and they're like, we got to find the killer, and we got to get payback. And then it cuts away, and I just kind of sat there. I'm like, no, finish it. Like, come on, what are we doing? And like it like moves on to like the next segment, and like this movie just keeps going, and like I'm sitting there like a stubborn child, and I'm like, no, I want to see them like get revenge. Like, don't tell me they just left off at that. Like, oh yeah, that would be pretty cool if we got revenge, but whatever. But no, later on in the movie, like after a couple segments, it all comes back full circle, and I was giddy. And they did it so good too. And they didn't even have those people return that were shot and like resurrected. Like, you don't even see them. What you see is like the killer, and like they're having this party, and like at this party they're all gathered around, and I guess like this like certain family, the Wrigleys, that was their name. The Wrigleys, they must get like a certain amount of kills. I think it was like 7 or something like that. But whenever like these people were killed, there was like this like little symbol or number like spray painted or carved into their RV, and I was like, I don't know what that's all about. But it's this family symbol, and they all like talk about like their certain amount of kills, and they're like, oh, this girl here, like she got her kills, and like all of her family's applauding, and she's like, listen guys, like I'm gonna show you in a presentation, and then she gets out like a VHS tape, very fitting for the franchise. And they're like, oh, you videoed it. And she's like, of course I did. Like, it's a good memory. And, like, like they're treating this like it's a bar mitzvah. Like, it's hilarious. And, like, while she's showing the footage of her, like, sneaking around the camp, like, getting her gun, like, it shows her kind of pop up, and she waves at the camera smiling. And, it's like her, like, first baseball game. Like, that's how they're treating it. I found it absolutely hilarious. They're going back and forth. The girl's talking like, oh, the Wrigleys, we got to get her a certain amount of kills. And she's like, there's like Aunt Tracy with her poison brownies. And like she's like going down the list of what like each family member did. And they're all like nodding, smiling, so proud. But eventually the Wrigleys, they get the cops called on them. And when the cops show up, like it's basically a SWAT team. And they're like, Wrigley's never get taken alive. Go out guns blazing. And like all the ants and stuff, they're pulling out machine guns. They're all dying from gunfire. But how they get their killer back, the young girl who's taking these videos, waving like it's just a casual Sunday morning. They put the water on her so that she never dies. So she tries to go out guns blazing, but then she comes back to life. So the cops take her alive. And that's the one rule that the Wrigleys had. You can never get taken alive by cops. And that's how, she gets her punishment. The whole thing of this going full circle, it was awesome. It really did. I was a little worried it would overtake 1, but it didn't quite do that. But when you put those 2 segments together, for me, it is definitely number 2. I love the entire bit about this 2-parter. So that leaves my number 1, the champion of all VHS segments, is Safe Haven from VHS 2. A film crew going out to investigate this cult going on in a different country. What can I say about this segment? If you watch any type of rankings for VHS movies, I guarantee Safe Haven will most of the time be at the very top. It is a very good segment. It's very creepy the way they have these people act that are in the cult. They have classrooms full of kids. There's kind of an emotional story that goes down between the film crew. You feel for all the people involved. When things start going down, these people, the cult trying to kill them, there's people like shooting themselves in the head. It's insane. But then they all get brought back to life as zombies. So the chaos that happens at first gets even crazier. People exploding. There's a pregnant girl where this gigantic monster comes out. And it all comes like back full circle because I'm one of the film crew. He like cheat. So this guy and a girl in the film crew, they're girlfriend and boyfriend, but one of the dudes was cheating, was having an affair with the dude's girlfriend, and the guy learns this by overhearing on a mic by accident. She's pregnant, but the cult turns the pregnant lady. It turns the baby into like a little demon, and it just I'm going on and on and on. I'm sure you've watched it. It's by far the best. It really is. It's scary. It's creepy. It's chaotic. It's insane. It literally is. It is the best segment, hands down. It's going to be very hard for this segment to ever be topped. And I knew it was going to be number one from the get-go. The little segment stuff from '85, it gave it a run for its money, but didn't quite get there. It is still safe haven as the number one segment for me. And that is all 38 segments ranked. And I did it in 50 minutes. Not bad, not bad. It's going to be a long episode. But we aren't done, because I did say that I would rank all of the movies. So let's get to that real quick. I'm going to do this spur of the moment, just how I feel, what movies I like the best. So let's start it off worst to best. Very worst VHS movie, VHS Viral. No question about it. I think VHS Viral is just a load of crap. I'll just leave it at that. I don't like it. There's some funny bits to it. It's kind of fun to make fun of, but overall it's not a very good movie. The second worst is VHS 99. It's a lot better than VHS Viral. But I still just didn't quite like it as much as the others. A lot of the segments are gross. I liked Suicide Bid. That was kind of the bright spot. To Helen Back, that one's okay. But other than that, I just didn't really care for it. VHS 94, I like this one a lot. After VHS Viral, it kind of brought its back. And that's why it's there. The next one, I would say the original VHS. Very good movie. But I'm telling you what, these other ones kind of just blew me away, and I will get to them soon. But I like VHS for its atmosphere. It got everything started. It has the siren bit. It's a very good movie. Next one, VHS 85. VHS 85, I was blown away by. Once I got to 99, I was kind of like, we're probably going to go downhill, aren't we? No, I loved VHS 85. I thought it had the best connecting segment. I thought it had the best two-parter with Ambrosia and No Wake. I thought it was very good. I enjoyed it a lot. VHS Beyond, I was shocked. Like, it was better than 85. What in the world? Visually, very, very good. Stowaway, that stuck with me. I have no bad things to say. Really, after 99, guys, I have no bad things to say about any of those movies. I'm just trying to put them one ahead of the other. And the best VHS movie is VHS 2. Very simple but effective connecting story and very good segments to go with it. So yeah, number 1, VHS 2. Number 2, VHS Beyond. Number 3, VHS 85. Number 4, VHS. Number 5, VHS 94. Number 6, VHS 99, and very last, VHS Viral. Man, oh man, I am close to an hour episode. Wow, that's a milestone. That's a milestone for this podcast. But I will definitely say it's worth it. Ranking all these episodes, good stuff. If you are still here for as long as we've been going, I greatly appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. I knew it was going to be a tall task as soon as I started it, but I was looking forward to it. Watching all these VHS movies, they're fantastic. A lot of good segments, a lot of good nights watching these. I'm very grateful that I did so. After high school, I kind of trailed off after the second one because I heard Viral was so bad. I was like, I don't even know if I should visit the later ones. If you haven't, and if you feel like I haven't spoiled all these segments enough for you, go watch them, man. 85 and Beyond were fantastic. I was like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even really heard anything about these, and they were great. So yeah, I'm very happy that I finished the franchise overall. And yeah, I think this was a good episode. Very good list, very long list. 38 segments and 6 or 7 movies. Not bad. So, okay, again, thank you if you're listening. If you can, give this episode a like to get it out to other people. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? And again, thank you so much for staying with me. Very long episode, but if you last all the way through, thank you so much. Tell me what you think about your ranking. If I ranked it bad, maybe you're a fan of Bone Storm and you're mad at me. Maybe you're a fan of Ozzy's Dungeon and you think I'm completely stupid for putting it so low. Let me know. But if you agree with me, let me know that too, because that's also nice to know. Again, I'm getting long-winded, so I'll end this episode. Again, thank you so much if you're listening, and until next time.